Well, that's something that you will need to ask them, but until there is no such investigation, unfortunately, it appears that perhaps the truth will be buried with Shireen Abu Akleh tomorrow in East Jerusalem. Now, Prime Minister Bennett is not the only one who's calling for a joint investigation. This is also a call coming out of the United States. Also, the EU called for a joint investigation. This would be an investigation with Palestinian pathologists as well as Israeli and American, so that in order to quell any kind of concerns from the Palestinian side that there may be some tarnishing of this investigation. But what we are seeing is that in the day and a half since the killing of Shireen Abu Akleh on a reporting mission yesterday in Jenin, we're seeing her death, perhaps more than any other issue in recent months, uniting Palestinians everywhere, whether it's in Gaza, the West Bank, East Jerusalem, also many of Israel's Arab citizens. Together, this appears to be a topic that is uniting them all. Now, your question is very interesting because Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas today he described Shireen as the voice of truth, but it seems that it's his own Palestinian Authority that is trying to avoid finding that truth, because if it were to be determined that it wasn't Israeli fire that was responsible for her death, but rather a bullet fired by a Palestinian militant, then that would change everything. But in the meantime, the view that Israel is the sole responsible, this is something that is being amplified not only by Arab media, but also on social media across the world. And this messaging is very helpful for Abbas, who internally is suffering from very low approval ratings. And so this is unfortunately being used as a political issue to try and ride the wave of this Palestinian unity amid the death of a veteran journalist.
To that exact point, what does this all mean for security coordination between Israel and the Palestinian Authority in this region right now?
Well, we haven't heard any calls or any decisions by the Palestinian Authority that they're halting said security cooperation. This is something that has been going on for many years, despite ups and downs. It's events like this that could threaten this very important security cooperation. But at the moment, this is not something that we're seeing will be leading to cut of ties. There is the concern inside Israel that this could spark another wave of violence. But as we've seen in recent months, what appears to be the main spark, the main ignition to this wave of terror is what happens in Al-Aqsa. That appears to be something that has more capability of rallying these violent elements. What we're seeing now is more national unity, political unity. Whether that will be translated to violence in the streets still remains to be seen.
And in context of the wave of terror that exists in Israel in recent weeks and the subsequent raids in Jenin in the West Bank where the shooting happened, talk to us about if these raids are likely to continue on the ground. Do things continue in terms of that fight against terror?
Well, they didn't continue today, and they have been going on and off in recent weeks. I would imagine that as far as optics are concerned, there will probably be a certain lull in these operations in Jenin, which it's important to state has in recent years emerged as a hub for terror, for violence, Palestinian armed factions all cooperating, something that you don't see outside of Jenin. You see Fatah, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad all working together in Jenin. This is something that Israeli defense officials have set their sights on, but given this latest development that has caused global outrage and a lot of diplomatic pressure on Israel, I think any intention to perhaps ramp up the thwarting activity in Jenin will probably take a back seat, at least in the immediate future.